Island fortress. Taiwan beefs up its military self-reliance and intensifies Air Force training. Nowhere to run. Hundreds of overseas Taiwanese illegally extradited to China. Will they receive a fair trial? Omicron threat looms. After closing their doors, the world looks to vaccines in defense against a startling new variant. And the show must go on. Cinema from a bygone era remastered and now featured on TaiwanPlus. A warm welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Yin Khvat. Taiwan's Air Force has taken delivery of the first indigenous advanced jet trainer. The planes will be used in exercises to help train military forces on the island. This comes after China sent 27 warplanes into Taiwan's air defense zone on Sunday as part of its grey zone tactics. But threats like these aren't the only thing Taiwan and allies are monitoring. Jaime Ocon tells us more.
On Monday, Taiwan's military was handed their first domestically made advanced jet trainer, or AGT. The development of the jet trainer is part of the country's efforts to become more self-reliant militarily. Taiwan's Ministry of Defense plans to deliver 2 more AGTs to the Air Force by the end of this year. And in total, 66 AGTs are expected to be delivered before the end of 2026. This past weekend, 27 Chinese planes intruded into Taiwan's defense zone, and the Taiwanese National Defense Minister was quick to provide reassurance.
But
fighter jets and advanced weaponry isn't the only form of aggression facing the island. Thousands of Chinese sand dredgers like this were reportedly spotted off the coast of Taiwan. These ships are meant to exhaust Taiwan's Coast Guard forces, who need to conduct round-the-clock patrols in an effort to repel Chinese vessels. Gray zone tactics like this are meant to bring Taiwan to its knees without ever having to fire a shot. But China isn't the only one using gray zone tactics. This month alone, 2 separate delegations of U.S. lawmakers visited the island, and the first batch of F-16s upgraded with the help of the U.S. was turned over to the Air Force.
我们奉劝美方一些人不要打台湾牌，因为这是一张臭牌、死牌，肯定打不赢，必定要撞南墙，自食恶果。
Whatever hand the United States or Taiwan are playing, both countries recognize the growing threat that China poses and are determined to tackle the matter together. Chris Ma and Jaime Ocon for TaiwanPlus.
Parliamentarians from Belize touched down in Taipei on Tuesday morning, the latest overseas delegates to arrive for a democracy forum later this week. But as preparations for the meeting continue, Beijing has hit back at the presence of delegates from 3 Baltic countries already in Taiwan. James Chater reports.
2 parliamentarians from Taiwan's diplomatic ally Belize arrive at Taipei's international airport on Tuesday morning. They're the latest overseas delegates to arrive in Taiwan for the Open Parliament Forum, a democracy summit. The meeting will also be attended by 10 representatives from Lithuania, Latvia and Estonia already in the country. After meeting President Tsai on Tuesday, members of the Baltic contingent also held talks with Taiwan's Premier, Su Zhentang.
感谢立陶宛贵国在台湾需要疫苗的时候，特别捐赠给台湾，我们
After a banquet with Taiwan's Foreign Minister Joseph Wu, the Foreign Ministry also thanked the 3 countries for choosing to stand with Taiwan. But from Beijing, there were stern words for the Baltic delegates.
我们敦促有关方面谨言慎行，停止向台独势力释放错误信号。我们也正告台湾当局，妄想勾连外部势力进行谋独挑衅。 是打错了算盘，注定以失败告终。
But Lithuanian MPs in Taiwan continued their defiant tone, with the group's leader saying that it is united against tyranny and another saying China was welcoming the delegation with threats. Despite the developments, Taiwan's foreign minister remained tight-lipped on a potential presidential visit to Europe amid warming ties with the continent.
蔡总统在卸任前有没有可能
出访欧洲。
我们还在持续观察，但是目前没有任何规划。
While a visit from Tai remains highly unlikely given the unofficial relations between Taiwan and EU states, the Democracy Forum looks set to deepen Taiwan's engagement with democratic partners old and new, in spite of threats from China. Karma Xu and James Chater for TaiwanPlus.
A new report by the Spain-based NGO Safeguard Defenders highlights Beijing's campaign to extradite Taiwanese criminal suspects to China. Entitled China's Hunt for Taiwanese Overseas, the report catalogues over 700 cases in which Taiwanese suspects were extradited to China between 2015 and 2019. The report says Beijing uses the cases to assert its sovereignty claim over Taiwan. From 2009, Taiwan and China had an agreement on the extradition of suspects arrested in transnational criminal cases. But the agreement has lapsed since Tsai Ing-wen became Taiwan's president in 2016. For more on this report, Ryan Ho-Kilpatrick asked Safeguard Defenders senior advisor Michael Castor in Bangkok how extraditions are being used by Beijing to push its claims over Taiwan.
Rather than allowing them to communicate with representatives from the Taiwanese Ministry of Justice or Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Beijing is exerting total control over these individuals, despite agreements that it should be a joint process with Taiwanese officials. By pressuring these countries to detain and then forcibly return Taiwanese nationals to Beijing, it's pushing a political narrative that all individuals of any Chinese ethnicity, all Taiwanese nationals, are really the exclusive property of China. And I think that's the way that the party sees this, whether it's Taiwanese nationals, whether it's Chinese-born, Swedish or British citizens. Really, the Chinese Communist Party is exerting a sense of full control over anyone that they feel to be within their purview of power.
But Taiwan's sovereignty is not the only issue at play here. International extraditions are supposed to follow certain norms and principles, like the right to a fair trial, the right to life, and prohibitions against torture. Everything we know about the Chinese justice system tells us these things are far from guaranteed there. So are there also other obligations that these states should have?
A fundamental principle of international law is that of non-refoulement. And that means that a state is not to, they're absolutely forbidden, prohibited, for sending an individual back to a country where there is risk of persecution. That means torture, denial of a right to a fair trial, various forms of discrimination based on ethnicity, race, religion, nationality, political affiliation, the death penalty. It's a list of issues. The problem with China is that these concerns, these gross human rights abuses, whether it's the denial of a fair trial, the risk of torture, these are widespread and systematic. It really has less to do with sovereignty, with nationality. It's a fundamental issue of international law, international human rights, that no country, regardless of nationality of the individual in question, should be extraditing, allowing deportation of an individual back to China.
What else can other countries do about this? How should they respond to Chinese extradition requests, for example?
If there's current extradition agreements that are being negotiated, of course, we would advise that that process is suspended. If extradition agreements have already been ratified, we would like to see moratoriums, revocations, following the legislative process in those countries, but putting an end to active extradition agreements. So when a country, any country, sends an individual to China where they are at risk of gross human rights violations, they're also acting in direct contravention of their own international human rights obligations. And we would like to see all of this changed.
The foreign minister says Taiwan is confident of keeping its diplomatic ties with Honduras, no matter who becomes the country's new president. Opposition candidate Xiomara Castro of the leftist Liberty and Refoundation Party has declared herself victorious in Sunday's elections. With votes from just over half of precincts counted, Castro led her nearest rival, Nasri Asfora of the ruling National Party, by 20 points. The election is being keenly watched in Taiwan, as Castro had pledged to pursue formal ties with Beijing if she wins, although her team later said it was not a definitive decision. Honduras is one of 15 countries that retain formal diplomatic ties with Taiwan.
到目前为止，我们所收集到的这个结果不论选举的结果怎样，我们应该都还好。我们的跟洪都拉斯的这个邦交应该不会有问题。那至于他们国内的这种比较微妙的这种变化，我们会持续的来观察。
Coming up, one less follower. Jack Dorsey steps down as Twitter CEO. Details after the break.
Taiwan 台湾最有人情味的地方。
Welcome back. You're watching TaiwanPlus News. A reminder of our top story. The first indigenous advanced jet trainer has been delivered to Taiwan's Air Force. The planes will be used in exercises to help train military forces on the island. This comes after China sent over 27 warplanes into the Taiwan's air defense zone over the weekend as part of its grey zone tactics. Global travel curbs are continuing to tighten in response to the new COVID variant Omicron. South Korea has joined the list of places shelving plans to open up as Omicron spreads to nearly 20 countries. Global leaders are renewing calls for their citizens to get vaccinated in response to the new threat. Rick Glowett reports.
A national vaccine drive in the Philippines. The country is rushing to inoculate 9 to 10 million unvaccinated individuals in just 3 days, as Omicron sweeps the globe, with cases recorded in nearly 20 countries.
We are ready, but we can still buy more time. No? Pinipigilan natin na makapasok. We should delay this as much as we can and really prepare the health system's capacity.
It is one of many measures put in place by governments around the world to counter the new threat, amid a stark warning from the WHO.
If there is one thing we have learned, it's that no region, no country, no community, and no individual is safe until we are all safe. The emergence of the highly mutated Omicron variant underlines just how perilous and precarious our situation is.
Scientists are scrambling to learn more about the latest iteration of the virus.
The Omicron variant has more than 30 mutations in that spike protein, but it's that combination of potential increased transmissibility and potential ability to escape our immune system that has everyone worried.
Countries are shutting their doors on Omicron, and attention is turning to the vaccine's role in the fight.
But while we have that travel restrictions can slow the speed of Omicron, it cannot prevent it. But here's what it does. It gives us time. It gives us time to take more actions, to move quicker, to make sure people understand you have to get your vaccine.
The leader of South Africa, where the latest variant surfaced, has called for less border restrictions and more vaccines for poorer nations. Chinese President Xi Jinping is sending 1 billion vaccines to African nations, 600 million of them as donations.
中国永远不会忘记非洲国家的深情厚谊.
And in Taiwan, after the health minister called on everyone to get jabbed, local vaccine manufacturer Medigen says it is creating a local-made pseudovirus of Omicron to test its vaccine's effectiveness against the new variant.
We should all be wide awake to the threat of this virus. But Omicron's very emergence is another reminder that although many of us might think we're done with COVID-19, it's not done with us.
As the battle against the coronavirus nears its 2-year mark, Omicron's emergence is an indication that victory is still far from sight. Patrick Chen and Rick Glowett for TaiwanPlus.
Barbados has declared itself a republic, ending almost 400 years of the British monarch as the Caribbean island's head of state. Sandra Mason became the country's first president just after midnight on Tuesday to replace Queen Elizabeth. Prince Charles travelled to Barbados to attend the inauguration. He gave a speech highlighting the two nations' continuing friendship despite the change in constitutional status. The Queen also sent congratulations to Mason and well wishes for Barbadians' future happiness. Supporters of the move says it sends a powerful message by removing the vestiges of Barbados's colonial past. Jack Dorsey, the CEO of social media giant Twitter, has stepped down 15 years after he co-founded the San Francisco-based company. Dorsey announced the news on the social media platform, saying that he wanted the company to break away from its founding members. 45-year-old Dorsey co-founded Twitter in 2006. He was fired from the top position in 2008 before returning in 2015. In recent years, he has overseen a period of increased scrutiny from regulators over censorship on the platform, most significantly over the suspension of former US President Donald Trump's account. Parag Agrawal, formerly the company's chief technology officer, will become CEO with immediate effect. And analysts say he will need to adapt quickly.
I hope he has sitting, at his elbows, so to speak, people who are very well versed in the social and political effects that the platform has, people who understand what may be needed at this point in terms of government regulation, which is a big topic that's been discussed a lot in the last couple of years, but where very little has actually happened.
NBA player and outspoken critic of China, Enes Kanter, has changed his name to Enes Kanter Freedom and become a US citizen. Raised in Turkey, Kanter Freedom passed a citizenship test and was sworn in as an American on Monday. A controversial figure in Turkey, Kanter Freedom was disowned by his own family over his criticism of the Turkish government. In recent months, the basketball star has used social media and specially designed sneakers to hit out at China's human rights record. He's called for a boycott of the 2022 Beijing Winter Olympics. A Taiwanese chain store has become the world's first fried chicken shop to launch a non-fungible token, or NFT. Launching at a price of $1, the token has seen its value rise by 350% in just 3 days. Shuyuan Fried Chicken said that owners of the NFT can receive one food item per person. NFTs are powered by the same technology as cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin and Ethereum, but each token is unique. They can be used to represent real-world assets, but are mostly associated with digital artwork. The TaiwanPlus Film Festival is now available online on our website. Along with recent hits, you can also find classic Taiwanese language films fully remastered and restored by the Taiwan Film and Audiovisual Institute, giving audiences around the world a new window on the country's cinematic heritage. Eastern artistic tradition focuses less on realism and more on emotion. As the experts at Taiwan's National Palace Museum explain, it's all about bringing the viewer on a journey through the artwork.
一张画的意境啊，大概就像是它的气氛。这个意境有的会让我们觉得很沉静，有的会让我们觉得很轻松，有的会让我们觉得很快乐，有的让我们觉得很悲伤。不同的画面呈现出来的不同感受，这就是不同的意境哦。
西方它在表现写实的意境的时候，希望能够跟外在它所描绘的对象比较等同的关系，会非常的精准，以像不像为非常重要的考量。那么，可是，在东方比较希望自己是跟对象是融合而为一的，等于是吸收了对象的精质。 把自己融在这其中，把自己化为它就是山跟水，那么所以呈现出来的写实的效果可能是不一样的。
我们要谈意境的时候，它所呈现的效果很有可能是这些图像本身，它自己就可以产生这样的效果。但同时有一部分是画家也会投射出这样自己的心情。假设画家把自己心情投射进去，那他意境就会跟画家的想法有一个更接近。
我们假设举故宫很有名的一篇作品，叫郭熙的《早春图》。 它在呈现的是春天刚来、雪初融的一个景象，整个它所呈现出来的氛围是一个早春的意境。
雪融了水之后，水汽一下来，所以它那个水汽阴冷的感觉，就让画面整个活起来。第二个就是云气，春天的云气是比较浓郁的，会让我们觉得好像比较柔软的。 第三个就是嫣然哈，我们讲春天的嫣然是含笑的，让我们觉得是非常的柔和、舒服的。 画面上呢，作者安排了一些人物在里面，他们可能在探访春天，也可能是要开始工作，也可能开始访友。那这样的人物介入，让我们发现，中国山水画其实它有点出世的这种情境的描写，但是它又跟人物做了紧密结合，可能达到我们在看山水画里面所谓似可行、可居、可望、可游这样的一个状态，达到一种山水画跟人之间很紧密的一种关系。
Taipei zookeepers are hand-raising a 7-month-old infant koala after the death of her mother. It's a first for keepers at the zoo. The mother, Grace, was diagnosed with acute leukemia. The zoo decided to put her to sleep after consulting with experts at Australia's Currumbin Wildlife Sanctuary. Grace was nursing a female joey in her pouch at the time, which keepers also named Joey. She is kept in a customised cotton pouch and fed every 3 hours. The keepers are also helping the youngster practice grabbing things and teaching her to pick leaves to eat. Thanks for watching TaiwanPlus News. I'm Yin Khvat. We leave you with pictures of a newborn pygmy hippo baby in a zoo in Western France. For more stories from Taiwan around the world, please download the TaiwanPlus app. Stay safe and see you next time.